Well. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary hanging out with you on a little live stream before the Talking Jets panel at 8 o'clock. Just figured I'd hop on and talk about some big news of the day as Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets continue to get leaked or linked, not leaked, linked together. Wow. Off-season champs. I saw Hennessy put it in the chat. He's hanging out with us. What's up, Hennessy? He goes back-to-back off-season champs, baby. TJ Decker's hanging with us. King Blaze, Jets gang, Indie Jets fan, Jets highlights. Man, oh man, is it a wild time to be a fan of this New York Jets football team. Today, the big one really was, at least the big one is Adam Schefter. Let's pull it up. Update: the Packers will not be trading Aaron Rodgers within the NFC conference. They will explore the idea of trading the back exclusively to the AFC, per Adam Schefter. Okay, so why is that such a big deal? That's obviously the current story, the latest, and we know that obviously there's a little bit of a debate, a little bit of a debate might be putting it nicely, amongst Jet fans on who they actually want the quarterback to be. But the reason why this is a big deal that that Rodgers would not be traded in the NFC and only the AFC is because that eliminates a lot of options. Think about it. The Saints need a quarterback. The Commanders need a quarterback. If Tom Brady retires or goes elsewhere, the Buccaneers need a quarterback. So those are three quarterback needy teams going out the window. Now, in the AFC, the Jets, maybe Tennessee, the Raiders potentially could be one, but if Brady leaves, the Raiders wouldn't seem like a good spot for Brady because the connection with his former OC, Josh McDaniels. Would it really be Adam Schefter reporting that it's going to be only an AFC team? So you're telling me it's between the Titans and the Jets, maybe. Or throw a mystery team in there. Why not? Let's get nuts. Is it 2008 all over again? Getting those kind of feelings. And I'm sure we're going to get into it a lot. I know it's a controversial one. Shockingly, you can't get everyone to agree on which quarterback they want. People talking about Rodgers. You have others talking about Carr. You have people who still want Lamar, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill. Run it back with Zach. Just sign Mike White. I've seen it all, but honestly, I don't know how likely it is that Aaron Rodgers becomes a Jet, but also he was on with Pat McAfee today. He was on the Pat McAfee show making his weekly appearance. I believe he's on every single Tuesday. Why is the audio bad? Bad in what way? Audio is cutting out? Cutting out how? That's unfortunate. Anyway, there's nothing I can really do on the fly now. Once it's live, I can't really hear it. Aaron Rodgers was talking about Zach Wilson, his relationship with Zach Wilson, and just overall what it was like for him when he was talking to Zach Wilson. And he shared a story to both Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk, his former teammate AJ Hawk with the Green Bay Packers. And he tells the story of him calling Zach at 6 p.m. on a Friday. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Where are you? And Zach was like, I'm at the facility. He's like, dude, just go home. What? Like, just go home. And then he talks about some of the other weapons and like Garrett Wilson. He doesn't refer to anyone's name, which is really funny to me. He's like, they got the young wide receiver and the other guys have to fill it in. But yeah, there's some playmakers there. Would Rodgers come here? Do you want Aaron Rodgers? Let's go into it. Anthony G says, Jet the F up. If I can't get O'Leary at quarterback, my number 2 is Rodgers. Well, I appreciate that. Guys, just refresh the screen. I've heard so many people in here are saying it's fine. Half is fine. Half is saying it's terrible. Refresh it would be my guess. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, chat. Let's go into. Okay, so I'm trying to go into comments now, but it's way too many audio stuff. Refreshing worked better now. There we go. Got it. They got it in there. You guys got it. Glad to hear it. Okay. So let's continue to talk Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's the biggest name for today. Let me know in the comments, too. Who would you like to see the Jets land? Do you want them to go out and do the big swing for Aaron Rodgers? Instead, would you prefer them to just get Derek Carr? Maybe Lamar's your guy. Let me know. I want to go through it. Hennessy Heisman says, I think it will only take one first. That's a Becton or Zach. Easy trade. Yeah, I don't see. That's another thing. Good point out there. People saying it's going to be multiple first-round picks. I don't know if that's going to be the case, that it's going to be multiple first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers at 39 years old. If it was, someone who's around 30, closer to 30 rather than closer to 40, maybe that's a little bit of a different story. But as we talked about in the video earlier today, he's probably only going to play 2 more years at the most, or potentially 1 year. So it's only a 2-year rental. I don't see how it's going to be 2 firsts. I saw another report online today where it's saying potentially a day 2 pick for this year and then a conditional first the following year in 2024. That seems to make a lot more sense. Billy SPC says, I prefer us to train up our own players and stop trying to rip the success of other teams by poaching their quarterbacks. Well, unfortunately, Billy SBC, I don't think there's a quarterback on the roster at this point. Hennessy Heisman brings up a good point. Do you want Rodgers or Carr in the playoffs? Easy answer. Get it done, JD and Woody. Rodgers has the higher ceiling. He's the better quarterback between the two. When you factor in age and price, that is the only thing where you're going to be able to, really make the argument to go the other direction. Casimir Harper says every option is an improvement over what we have now, right? So I guess beggars can't be choosers. Melvin Jacobs, I'd rather have Carr or else in another year or two we're in the same place. Maybe not, though. Couldn't you just develop someone, have them sit, whether it's Zach or draft somebody else in the mid rounds and have them develop? I don't know. I think they're trying to just go in on their little window that they have here with all these guys on their rookie deals. Oh, Billy SBC says go with White and sign someone like Teddy B to compete. No, thank you. Jason W, there you go. I want Mike White back, but not necessarily as our QB1. No, I think QB2/spot starter is more than fine. King Blaze is saying Rodgers equals Super Bowl. Carr is equaling just the playoffs. That's fair. The question that I have, and it's more of just an open-ended question. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but could we see something where, how Matthew Stafford went to the Rams after not really having any sort of playoff success with Detroit? And then can you see that same thing happen with Carr with a better roster and better situation? I don't exactly think that Carr is the same caliber of quarterback as Matthew Stafford. I think Stafford's a little bit better than he is, but just something to think about. No, see another poor Billy SBC take. If we win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, every Packers fan will know that Super Bowl really belongs to them. No, they've had the same quarterback for the last 10 plus years, and they were only able to do it in 2010. The defense matters, the line, the wide receivers, the running backs, the coaching, everything else. So not exactly true. Do the Colts get a Super Bowl for Peyton Manning's 2015 ring? I don't think so. Isaac Roman says draft Richardson and trade for Rodgers. You're probably going to have to use pick 13 on Richardson, and they might not have it if they're trading for Rodgers. And if that's the case, they probably would want an offensive lineman to protect Rodgers, would be my guess. But maybe a mid-round developmental quarterback, potentially. Matt Spazzero says, if we get Rodgers, do we all get a break on car insurance? We should. Ryan Tannehill can be Alex Smith. Yeah, but yes, pretty much. That seems pretty accurate. James says, if you can get AR, it's a no-brainer. Best quarterback out there. Let Zach sit a few years behind him. Who knows? Maybe Wilson improves a ton and matures over 2 years. Yeah, behind Rodgers and is the long-term QB. I think that would be your best case scenario if you land in Aaron Rodgers. That would be the plan. That, best case scenario that Zach in 2 years is good to go. If not, then draft somebody else. And I think you'll be able to know by at some point next year in practice. Michael wants Garoppolo. We need a lineman. Well, that's if you're going to have Garoppolo, you need lineman because Garoppolo's an injury waiting to happen. So you better have a good backup too. I like Garoppolo when he's healthy and on the field, but he's been hurt a ton over the last few years. Chris Murphy says Mike White is car with 2 R's insurance. There we go. I like that answer. That's punny. Zachary says, I am greedy and don't want to lose our first. I kind of feel the same way. If you can't, or rather, if you can get a quarterback without giving up the first, I think that's obviously the perfect scenario, but that's not always the case. Joe says, doesn't matter who we sign without fixing the assault line. Yes, which is why you need pick 13. I think anyway. So I'd be more willing to do like the second this year and the conditional first next year, because I think you definitely need an offensive lineman. And yeah, that's a fair point. V-Man, good point. As always, why are Pats fans excited for Bill O'Brien when Alabama fans are celebrating his departure? He did not have a ton of success there with Alabama. So that's a good point. See, Joe says get Rodgers and sign Orlando Brown. That's going to be insanely difficult to do because then how are you going to be able to retain anybody else? Orlando Brown's going to be like 20 million. So that's going to be 35 million of your potential, 50-ish $50 million in cap space to just those two guys. Joe says 4 drafted quarterbacks are still playing. That's true. What happened last year? I seem to remember a traded quarterback winning a Super Bowl last year and one in 2015 also. And were there any other examples recently off the top of my head? No, but that's 2 in the last 7 years. Daniel says Rex would have won the Super Bowl with Brett as his quarterback. I don't know. I think the biggest reason why 2018 didn't win the Super Bowl is because Brett got hurt. that was the issue there, is he got hurt. I like this Doug take. He says we should trade for that Mahomes guy. Here he's good at football. Yeah, maybe you get a break on him with his injury, right? Hennessy says if we get Rodgers, Lawson, and CJ Mosley will restructure also. I think both of those guys have to restructure anyway, even if you were to get someone who's going to be a little bit on the cheaper side, because his actual cap hit or Rodgers' actual cap hit wouldn't be nearly as bad as one might think. Jason from Over the Cap had it. I'm going to pull that up for you guys. Give me a second. Here we go. Oh, wait. Let me hide the chat and the layout. So if this is for the team acquiring him, it would be 15.79 in 23. And then in 2024, it'll be 32.5 million. Now, these are 2 dummy years in 25 and 26. So I see that you're going to see this number and freak out. That's not how it would be. If he was to retire after 2023, so the 1 year, his cap hit for 2024 would be 14.575, and then 29 million the 2 years after, which isn't ideal, but you might live with it. And then if it was after the 2024 season, it would be, you would designate him a June 1st retirement and take on the 30.242 million cap as dead money in both 25 and 26. Rico says, if the rumors are true, it would be a mistake. What are we giving up? Are you crazy? I think a big mistake. Well, we don't know what the package is yet. There's no way to know what it is yet. But if it's 2 first-round picks, maybe it is a mistake. 1 first-round pick, a little bit different. Indy says Becton is coming back strong this year. Have faith. Well, it's been two straight years of him missing an entire season. I hope that's the case. I really do. I like McKay when he's on the field. He's a good player, but I don't think you could rely on him and be like, yep, that's our left tackle. We're not going to worry about the left tackle position because we have McKay back there. I think that is a flawed plan. C-Biz says Carr couldn't elevate the Raiders offense and they have weapons. So we're relying on our defense and him being average. Sounds mid to me. Well, their defense has been abysmal. He's been fine. Where did they end up finishing in offense this year? Middle of the pack would be my guess. They were 12th in points and 12th in yards. It's not terrible. It's really not. And then in 2020, when they playoffs, they were 18th in points and 11th in yards. Interesting. I thought it would have been higher because Carr, probably his best year was in 2021. He had 4,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 94 quarterback rating. I thought he was good. Jets Gang says, ain't about defense. Carr still lost 6 games with the lead. That, to me, sounds like it's almost exclusively the problem. All the Super Bowl quarterbacks since 2000, I think 38 of 44 were drafted. We're not going to go through all those right now. Most of the time, quarterbacks are drafted, but when you miss in the top 5 twice in a 5-year span, that sometimes you have to call an audible. Sometimes you have to adjust. For the Rams, they felt like they were being held back by their quarterback position. They were a playoff team but couldn't get over the hump. They traded for an improvement. They won a Super Bowl. The Broncos, good team, acquire a quarterback on the tail end of his career. They go win a Super Bowl. There's instances where it hasn't worked. Russell Wilson didn't look good in Denver this past year. I'm trying to think if there's been any other examples with that, but of someone of this caliber. Worked with Brady. Brady won a freaking Super Bowl. How do we forget about Brady? Spaziero's saying take CJ Stroud. You're going to have to trade up to get him. And sure, he's a good prospect, but there's always the chance that it doesn't work out with one of these rookies. And then it's going to be a rookie on a learning curve for a year or two with the rest of the roster in win now mode, which is kind of what you just had. But You would imagine that Stroud would be better than Zach, hopefully, but there's no way to know that. Oof. Doug's saying Stetson Bennett in the 5th round. No, thank you. I think he's entering the draft at 35 years old. He's 100. Stetson Bennett is going to be a no for me. Caden Smith, bad news. I already recorded. The episode scheduled. I record on Tuesday afternoons because it drops at 8 o'clock the next morning. And since I'm on the show from 8 to 12, or 8 to 10 rather, I like to have it scheduled beforehand. So before we go live at 8 o'clock. That was taken care of a couple hours ago, unfortunately. Darian asks, is it possible for Streveler to start for the Jets at some point? Not if they're serious about winning football games. Joe S says, just like when Parcells passed on Orlando Pace to get more draft picks and missed out on a Hall of Fame tackle. Happened, unfortunately. That was a tough one. Bino says, didn't work for Mini. They were 13-3, lost a heartbreaker in the playoffs. Eddie Cousins went 8-7-1. Okay. That's a good example, I guess. I don't remember how much of that roster turned over from the year prior. They were just they were hot in, what was that, 2017? They did make the playoffs twice since then, but yeah, he's underwhelmed there. That's a fair one. Peter asks, when do we find out which quarterback we will get? Carr's the soonest you'll find out. That'll happen within 3 days of the Super Bowl. So if you want this to be over quickly, it's Carr. If you want it to go on for most of the offseason, it's Lamar or Rodgers or whoever else. Chris Murphy says half of the top 10 picks ends up as bust. Success rate significantly worse further down draft order. Sign a quarterback. Billy SVC says nobody mentions this. What if we sign Rodgers and wind up 7-10? That can actually happen. What then? Well, then they fire everybody. That's what would happen then. I don't think. I mean, they went 7-10 with the worst quarterback play in the league. I would hope that Rodgers would give them a little bit better than the worst quarterback play in the league. Scott says as long as we don't get Lamar or Dak, we're good. I wonder why that is. I think both of those guys get a little bit undeserved hate at times. Joe S says, so Rodgers is going 7-10, but Carr is going to win the Super Bowl. I don't buy that. Or maybe that's a reply from above. Jets Gang says, what did the run game rank this year? Zach takes the blame, but the run game wasn't good. The run game wasn't good enough. Lost Brees and AVT. I don't know how you could watch Zach miss those guys wide open in the flat and not think that there's something wrong. I like Zach Wilson. I think there's a fixed, but I don't think you could just rely on him and be like, oh yeah, that's the plan going forward. Jets run game was 25th in yards, 21st in touchdowns, 24th in yards per attempt, 27th in rushing attempts. So not good enough. They were 29th in points, 25th in yards. That's why they got a new coordinator. Every quarterback misses throws, though. Yeah, you watch Zach Wilson, thought nothing was wrong. I don't know if we're watching the same thing. Joe S says 2 years of Rodgers is perfect. That seems like that's been a popular choice today. Johnny P says, I don't agree with the Jets being a win now team. We are developing a young team. I don't agree with the high price veteran route. How much longer? It's been 5 years of Joe Douglas. You're going into year 3 with Robert Saleh. How long did they get? Year 10, maybe? You can compete in year 10. Next year, you go 8 wins. Then maybe the year after that, 9 wins. Maybe by 2026, you're like, okay, maybe you're ready to go from 9 wins to 10 wins, and maybe you're a playoff team by 2027. Nick H, you have no reason to fear that Quinnen Williams is going to be a part of an Aaron Rodgers trade. That is just not going to happen. See if it's magic question. He's on TV now. That's what he's up to. Yeah, the laughter. I'm with you on this one. He says, ever since Namath wagged the finger going up the tunnel, we've had a quarterback curse since. Feels that way. They haven't been able to find a long-term solution. Yeah, Peter, my dad still talks about that one. The Shula not covering the field in the mud bowl. That's a big one for my dad. He's still triggered over it. Jets gang bringing up the 49ers like they don't have the best play caller in the sport right now. That's a fair comparison. Sully says, I'm down for the New York Jets to make a splash. Hell yeah. Let's go. I swear Joe sold his soul for the Super Bowl. Feels that way. Michael says, random question. What was your first Jets jersey? I think Wayne. I'm pretty sure Wayne Corbett was the first Jets jersey. Yeah, it had to be. Wayne Corbett. I think I got it Christmas 2000. When I was 5. He's one of my favorites. Curtis Martin. Sean Ellis is a Matt O'Leary fan fave. All good ones. Justin says, hey, if we get Rodgers, then we might get the refs too. Well, we know, according to Garrett Wilson, they don't like the Ohio State guys. So Dan NY says Rodgers sounded like he's definitely coming back on Pat McAfee. He also spoke glowingly about Zach Wilson. I know he sucks, but how cool would it be if he fixes his mistakes, learning from A-Rod? That'd be awesome. Indy says, Matt, you going on with Ryan here in a bit? Yeah, just wanted to do a little pre-stream talk. We still doing Talking Jets at 8. So, well, yeah, figured we'd do a little bit of pre-show. Why not? 45 minutes was my plan. Came on at 7, hang out for 45 minutes or so, talk some Jets football, go down, refill my water, come back up, talk some more football with the crew. On Jets Talk 24/7, myself, Ryan, and Greenbean, we go live every Tuesday, 8 to 10 o'clock at night. It's a good time. If you guys don't know about it, I'm sure you do, but you can come hang out. John Perez, what's up, dude? Super chat from him says, if only Zach worked out instead of trading picks for a quarterback. That was the plan. The plan was to take someone second overall, have him grow for 2 years, and they'd be ready to compete by 2023. Unfortunately, Zach didn't get better this year. If he did, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but that's kind of what forced you to go this direction for the veteran now. You have Sauce, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. Who else? Tons of guys who are young on cheap deals. You got to capitalize on that while they're all here. You can't pay everybody. It's a salary capped sport. You can't keep every single guy. So if you don't have that quarterback who is also on his rookie deal, then you got to get the veteran. Or if you're going to have a very veteran roster, which is fine, then you need the young quarterback. Goes kind of both ways. Jets gang wants to know what we did for Zach to get better in 2022. Off the top of my head, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, CJ Uzama, Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, Dwayne Brown. That's where I'd start. If Rodgers is only good for a year, we are theoretically back to square one in 2024. Nope, not really. You could go into the draft and find the quarterback then, and hopefully figure it out at that point. You have to try, right? What do you want to do? Just shrug your shoulders and say, we have this nice young core of guys, but we couldn't figure out quarterback, so we'll just punt on the whole thing? That ain't right. Ooh, Jason W says Garrett Wilson is in top 5 next year if Rodgers is on our team. I think with pretty much any top 15 quarterback or above guy, he would be a top 10 receiver. Jose says, you have to sometimes take your fandom out of it. What is the goal of long-term longevity to stay competitive by bringing a 39-year-old who will only be here for 2-3 years? That's not long-term. I don't understand what we're not getting about your core being on rookie contracts and your window being the next 3 to 4 years. If you draft, what is your alternative plan? Run it back with Zach Wilson, I guess, and pray he figures it out. Draft somebody and hope that they hit right away, or you go through the developing stages for a year or two and find out that they don't work. And then you just you kick this whole young core that's cheap you wasted it? That don't make sense either. John Perez says JD hit his picks this year, was on hot seat before. Yeah, I mean, it's a big offseason for him. And Robert Saleh. They got to make the playoffs in 2023, which is why they're going to feel pressure to make a move so that they get to the playoffs. This team can't go 13 years without making the playoffs. Joe Douglas can't go 5 years as a GM without making the play. You have to take a tangible step in the right direction to being competitive. You have to. Justin says we've been out of the playoffs since 2010. I'll take a short little window of success. Right? What? You can't. Everyone falls in love with picks and cap space. Eventually, you have to cash in on those things. It's just not. You don't win, and you don't get a prize for picks and cap space. It's what you do with it. Go for it. Oh God! You know what? I'm almost at the point where I would rather they get Derek Carr so that I don't have to talk about the quarterback situation every single day with you guys, because some of you all are nuts in the chat. Not all, but some of you guys are absolutely insane in the chat. Jesus, man. The laughter says, if Robert is fired, do we go after Jim Harbaugh, the Iowa State coach? I'm not a big Harbaugh fan, but I do like Matt Campbell. I'd be more interested in Matt Campbell over Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh is perfect for the college game. I think he wears his welcome out a little bit quickly in the NFL. He's a little stubborn for me. Jingle Dub says QB is a non-negotiable need. There you go. Tyler says, why don't you play quarterback for us this year, Matt? I'm ready. You see the combine tapes from when Zach didn't have his contract situation done? Look, 6'4", maybe 6'5" if I stand up straight. We're looking at like 230 pounds, can kind of run, pocket passer, accurate as hell from 10 yards and in. Doug says, I truly think that some fans are being awful just so they can complain. Love being awful so they can complain and have a voice. There you go. Joe S says, I would still take Mahomes over Burrow. I would hope so. He's better. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Daniel says, but the question is, Matt, can you handle New York? There we go. Maybe. I hope so. Melt says it'll break your heart if we bring back Sam Darnold and get to the playoffs next year. I'd be happy as hell if they made the playoffs. Is it because, but we're doing the Darnold thing again? Really? He's missed time every year he's been in the league. Every single year. 18 hurt, 19 mono, 2020 hurt, ineffective, 2021 hurt, 2022 hurt. Daniel says, who's your Super Bowl winner? I think Niners over Bengals. I'm going to go Bengals over Eagles for my Super Bowl winner. I like the Niners. I think they're a really good, really good team. Eagles are just on fire right now. Bengals look like an unstoppable force. I think Burrow gets his. Billy says, Matt, 4 years, 100 million, you signing? Absolutely. I'll do it for half that. 50 million. Veteran minimum. Justin says, you only have to pay Q this offseason. The whole team is young and cheap and talented. Now is the best time to trade for an expensive, talented quarterback. That's really the only time to do it would be with this window. When you have to start making the decisions on whether you're going to pay someone like Brees, Garrett, Elijah, Sauce, all those guys, you can't, Jermaine, you can't retain everybody. And then you also can't have a quarterback that's going to be 40, 50 million against the cap. But when you have all these guys on cheap deals where they're significantly under market value, that would be your opportunity to go for it. Jax Jag says Baker Mayfield available and cheap. You also left out sucks ass in that comment. Pass. Finger Lakes Jets fan says if Jets give up a one and a conditional pick for Rodgers, I'd be happy. Aside from 2022, Jets first rounders have been mostly misses. Need we forget the Milner, Kyle Wilson, Pryor, Lee, Copels? They've also had, let's see, 3, 5, 6 picks in the first 2 rounds over the last 2 years. Right? Like you had a million picks. That was the time. The 2020 and 2021 were building times. 2022 was the start of it going in the right direction. 2022 is actually still building. 2023 to current is still it's go time. Matt, what about Kyler Murray if they decide to blow it up in Arizona? Something seems wrong with him. I think I don't know if he's part of the solution in Arizona. The whole contract situation where they wanted to put in the stipulation and then they removed the stipulation about the study out, like that's a big red flag to me. And I know they removed it because of all the backlash they got, but the fact that you thought about having to put that in there speaks volumes to me. Daniel says a guy I work with went to high school with Burrow, said he was never the biggest, fastest, strongest in the room, but always mentally top notch. I believe it. That makes sense. I have time for a few more in here before I get ready for the Talking Jets panel, which is going live at 8 o'clock over on Ryan's channel. Jerry says, who was your all-time favorite Jet player? Between Curtis Martin or Sean Ellis. Those are my two. The laughter. How many picks John Idzik wasted? Too many to count. What was it? Idzik 12? How many picks did they have in 2014? That draft class stunk. Ooh, best fictional quarterback of all time? Man. I don't know. Paul Carew, right? Isn't that from Longest Yard? Adam Sandler's the longest yard? Matthias says, Matt, let's go for the gold ring. Why not? If not now, when? That's exactly it. No, we're not spamming in here. What else we got? Nick H says the Jets need a new logo and uniform. Yep, that's a popular one. Sorry. I don't know why I wasn't ditching him out of here for some reason. Falco. There we go. I don't know. I couldn't think of him. Shane Falco, I couldn't think of. I was picturing it. Replacements, right? Yeah, I was picturing him. I couldn't think of his name. Al Bundy threw 4 touchdowns in a single half. These are things we forget. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for me on this stream. Remember, Talking Jets panel is going live in 15 minutes. Got to run downstairs. Take my wash out of the laundry or out of the washing machine. Run back up, and I'll be ready to go live at 8 o'clock. Thank you for hanging with me. Talk to you guys soon. Go Jets!